Hey, welcome to part 2, Upload and Process an Image Lab. In this lab, we will concentrate on trigger Azure functions to process blobs. I'm an Azure administrator, as well as an Azure solution architect. In this lab, we will create an Azure storage account, deploy serverless code using Azure functions, and create a blob storage event description in Event Grid. This lab is part 2 of a 4-part series of storage labs. It extends the previous lab to add a serverless automatic thumbnail generation using Azure Event Grid and Azure Functions. Event Grid enables Azure Functions to respond to Azure Blob storage events and generate thumbnails of upload images. Hey, welcome back to this storage lab. This is part number 2 of 4 of the series. And to start off, we need to, if you have not yet registered Event Grid in your subscription, you need to run this command here. I've done that before, so I'm not going to run it. And then we need to define 3 variables, one for our resource group, and we want to use the same resource group that you use in part 1. And for me, that is speedstorage.rg. Then you define a function storage variable and a function app. And then once you have those defined, we are going to then create a storage account for an Azure function. And generally speaking, developers once you'll create the function for the developer because they may not have rights, especially in production environments, and then they will write the code for the function. Then you're generally responsible for administrating the function, and that's we'll learn that skill during this lab. And plus, it's good information to know. You take the AZ. I think the current one is 103, or the AZ 300, because you'll be asked some function questions and. Where do you go for this? Where do you go for that? And this lab should give you that skill set. So let's create our storage using the command line interface. So AZ storage account create name. It's going to be $function storage location. Someday I'll be able to type better. East US resource group $resource group name. SKU will be standard LRS, and kind is storage version 2. All right, so I'm going to run these, get them in memory. And I'm just going to run one of these just to make sure it's actually there. Excellent. Now I'm going to run my command, create my storage accounts. Okay, and it looks like our storage account was successfully created. We go back to the portal and take a look at that. See, we have our storage account for our function, because every functions need a storage account. So let's go ahead and create our function now. Going to clear my screen down here. Let's see, let's put a little reminder here what we did. Create storage account for our function app. And how about here, we'll say create the Azure function. So AZ function app create name $function app storage account $function storage resource OURCE dash group $resource group name, and then kind of a handfuler: consumption, plan, location, East US, and then runtime.net. All right, so let's give this command a whirl, see what happens. I received an error. That's because, what did I forget? 2 little dashes. So let's try that again. Let me clear the screen and try that again. Okay, we were successful. So if we take a look at our portal, we should have a new resource right here. It's called Function Web App 3. So our next step is going to be to add, like we did in the part 1, remember we had to add some configuration settings to the web app to allow it to access a storage account. Well, we have to do the same thing now for our function. So let's go ahead and clear down here. Whoops. Come down a little bit here. And say something like credentials, credentials for the blob storage account, add it to the settings. Whoops. Settings of the function app. All right, so this command here can be quite difficult to type out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut and paste it, and then I'll add this to the description of the lab. Okay, here's our command. First, a new variable. So let's go ahead and run that so we don't forget. And here's we need to create a storage account string, and then actually the app setting. And see, this should look very similar to the one we did for the web app in part 1, and this is the string. So let's go ahead and run this command. Excellent, no errors. So next we'll run that line for the app settings. Okay, that completed. Now let's go take a look at our function and see what actually happened. Now notice we should see an app setting defining our container called thumbnails, a width of 100, and then version 2, which basically tells the function app to run version 2 of the Azure Functions runtime. So let's go check that out. And we'll click on our function. Notice that it's running, which is excellent. Click on our configuration. And notice we do have a couple new values. We got our connection string. For this should look familiar. And then we have our thumbnail width of 100, container of thumbnails, and version of 2. So everything looking pretty good. Remember, this is where you go to change configuration settings for a function app. So try to remember that. Might be handy someday. Okay, so now we're ready for the actual code to be placed in our function to resize our thumbnails. And remember, this is the part usually the developer will write the code, and then you're responsible maybe to even deploy the code, or at the very least, more likely to create the function like we did and administer the function. So we're going. This is the code. This is the command to install our image upload resize function. You see, we're getting it from GitHub again. So we'll just say here something like deploy the code for the resize function app from GitHub. All right. So again, I'll do that. This is a this part here could be a little tricky. Get exactly 100% right. So you can see it on the screen. Of course, if you want to do just type it, go ahead. But I'll have it in the description of the video. So here we go. Let's go ahead and hit run selection. Okay, you can see we were successful deploying the code. The next thing we need to do is create an event description. Okay, let's get started and create that event description that we need. To get to there, highlight thumbnail and add event description. Well, let me go back just for a second. If this does not show up to JSON here, add event description, you might have to click here and then click back on thumbnail. Sometimes it shows up first time, sometimes it doesn't. I don't understand it. But anyway, once you have this screen, click on add event description. And let's give it a name. We'll call it Sizer Thumbnail. And change this to storage. Pick our description. Pick our resource group, and then click the storage group, not the one you created in this lab for the function app, but actually the one we made in lab 1. That's the one you want. And that looks good there. We want to click on filters, click on enable subject filtering, and paste that in, or type it in. I'll have that again. This is very important to get it 100% correct. So you either type it in and try it, or I'm going to leave it in the description so you can cut and paste. And say create. This should not take long to deploy. Mine was succeeded. So I'm going to go back to my portal. Let's get rid of that. That was me testing. Let me minimize that. And let's go back to, I said go back to the portal. And I was already in the portal. All right, so here I am. I'm going to go to my storage account that I made in Lab 1, the one that I just pointed to, and go to Containers. I'm going to go to Images. I want to make sure everything's empty. So in case you didn't delete these before the lab, just wanted to make sure everything here is empty. Because I'm using the same images. If you're using different images, feel free to leave everything in there. But I only have 2 images, so I want to delete everything. All right. So next thing I want to show is if you don't have any images, what I did was I just typed in I don't know what I typed in. Be eraser images. And that brought me here. So I clicked here. Then I'll go ahead and make one. Let's make another one. So here, save picture as. And I'm putting in stuff. And we'll just call this Speed Racer 3. If there's anyone out there doesn't know who Speed Racer is, I guess it really depends on. I hate to pull the age card, but I was born when the cartoon came out. So when I learned that and I liked it, I think it's the best cartoon ever made. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. The best cartoon I think ever made was created the year I was born. So MTV had all the replays for a while. But Speed Racer, I would check it out. You can buy the whole collection on Amazon for like $20 now. So anyway, that's enough about Speed Racer. So let's go ahead and test our application. So let's go back to Speed Storage, the resource group. Go to our web app. Click on our URL. So it comes up with a nice fresh one. Remember, in the first lab, we added a image here, and it automatically added it to our images storage container, but it didn't show up here. What should happen now, when I add it here, it's going to add it to both storage groups or storage containers, and image will show up here as well in a nice resized package. So let's click here and pick Speed Racer. Or Speed. How disappointing. It didn't show up here. Oh, there it is. Little delay. I was a little concerned there. And then here it is. So let's add another one. Let's add our most recent one. And there it is. There's our second one. So now let's go check our storage group. And they should both be in there. I mean, not our storage group, our storage account in our containers. Here's another way to get to containers. Just clicking over here. And we click on images. We should have two. Speed and Speed Racer 3, which makes sense. And we should have two in here as well. So excellent. So everything's working good. Now, this lab is coming to an end. This is part 2 of 4. But I want to show you something that might be useful someday. And let's say we made that event description in our function app. And if you remember, we went to here and we went to here to add it. This is the last time we just did. You might say, well, Dave, how do I edit that? So, you could click here maybe to get the overview. I already get the overview. Yeah, here we go. Maybe you sync here, I go here. There's none of these options allow you to edit that event description. So where do you go? Well, you want to go to the storage group that you specified when you created it. All right. Then you might pick containers. Like that's where, remember, we specified the container. But no, go to events. And then here it is. And you get some nice little details. Show metrics. And you can see, looks like we just did some published events here. And errors. Luckily, we don't have any errors. But still don't see where to edit it. But you would think you see this here, right? Oh, we probably come here. Here's our prefix filter that we did. So let's go here, click here. And you got general. And why am not getting. Maybe it's no. Oh, here we go. My bad. Filters. Then here's your page that we added stuff. Here's that filter here, and notice you could delete it from here as well. So if you need to delete it, that's where you delete it from. And of course, then you hit save. All right. Well, I think that wraps up this lab, our part 2 of the whole lab. And there's 2 more. And I'll hopefully you enjoy this lab. And any feedback is always welcome, good or bad. And thanks for watching. And we'll join up on the next lab.